Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Skyholz.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan. And before we get started, sorry for the long delay. I feel like it's been almost like a month or something since we last recorded together, and that's mostly on my end. You'd be watching the video, you could see there's a new background behind me, and we just got done moving. We just got a house, and aside from having a kid on the way, and everything that comes with that, we also have to do all this moving. So that's just our life's been crazy busy for a while. So if it looks like Raiders earlier behind me, look at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but we got it down to you can kind of walk through now. So
Yeah, it's actually got a very like old timey look to it. Looks like you're kind of like in some kind of like 1800s house.
you know what it. At this angle, it very much looks like that, but if you go around the corner, you see from the outside, it doesn't. It's actually by Dutch standards, it's actually a not that old, for like in the States, you're like, this house was built in 1942. Like, whoa, that's old as fuck. And then like here, like, oh, that's a new house, dude. I think this is somewhere like, I think this one's like maybe 100 years old, which is not much for them.
Pre-asbestos,
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's what you want. You just don't want any of that. But that's what I always think about. Like, you don't want those like 1930s houses. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want any of that. That's how Steve McQueen died. Come on.
There's there is actually like a whale in the backyard, a well in the backyard, but it's like
A whale in the backyard. Like, help me, Ryan. The other fuck kept me here the whole time. He thought it was funny to have his own private whale.
it's just a common thing. Dutch people just like to have like outside whales. Yeah, just whales in the background. No, in the backyard. No, it's Wellsiak or whatever. No, it's like a whale.
That was the thing. Like when everybody like stopped doing their imperialization, they're like, "Yo, Dutch, you cannot just be taking these whales back home as pets. I know you love sailing, and you don't like the return without something."
It was so much. It was so much fun. We love this whale. We great addition to the family. No, not the case. No, like an old fashioned like well, but I'm not sure if it's just there. I don't want to look stupid because there's sometimes that thing where you just
you haven't decided to jump down it and see what there is.
Well, it's filled up with dirt right now, so I'm not sure if it's like. Was this always here, or is this just a piece of furniture? Like I didn't want to ask when we were looking at the house. Like, did that actually used to be a real well, or is that just like a gardening piece or something? So like, it's just like you probably tell me anything, you probably fucking believe it. Like, well, you see.
Well, I hate to sort of say it. In California, that would be a gardening piece.
Yeah.
That would be 100%. Someone would be like, "Oh, look how quaint it is. So we got a little decorative well out back. It's like we're just in the 1800s." It's just like the way that rich people love to have weddings. They'd have a bunch of old shit from like a trailer park there. I don't understand that ever, but like they love to have the old. Here's a rusty door that looks like not even. No one would want to have, but for some reason they like to put these rusty doors out. They like to take someone's old beater car that you practically just drug off of, like, the old trailer park lot. Put that behind us for our photographs. Let's look like we're poor for the day, and then we'll go back to the Bay Area and forget about all this.
It's like poor people Disneyland.
Yeah, it's just some of those things. It's so goofy, but yeah, well, you're gonna have to investigate that well. You have to go to like the city, offices and see like what was this well used for? Who's buried down there? Damn it! I'm an American. I need this information.
I'm an American going on an expedition. All right, you're the fifth one this week. All right, settle the fuck down. Every time an American gets here, he thinks he's the first one to all right, figure this shit out, but you're not. Trust me. No, it's probably I have no idea. Like it looks authentic, but then it could have maybe just been like capped off. Like, well, let's just leave this here. It looks nice. I don't know. That's not a point to me. I know no one gives a shit about my backyard. I'm just saying. There's that thing where you can't tell. Like, is this legitimately like an old ass thing, or is this just some kind of like, wow, this must be some ancient piece of no, dude, this thing was built in like the 80s. Like, oh, okay, fuck, all right.
Having a well, if the house is over 100 years old, having a well would be very common.
It could be, yeah.
That probably would have been the only way,
But but going on to more of not the immediate topic, but I guess a quick little topic. You said you saw the new Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, well I just said that. I was just like, well, I was going to see Ghostbusters anyway. So I'm like, well, if you want to see that too, we could talk about both of them. And then you're like, I didn't get around to see it. And then I was like, you weren't really missing out on much.
That seems to be the consensus.
Yeah, well, one, I didn't see the first one, so that probably didn't help me.
That
With the
probably
first
didn't
one
help
of the
you.
new series, I didn't realize they were connected. I thought this was actually a new
Like a
Ghostbusters.
brand new one. Like we're rebooting it again for
Well,
the third
I thought it was
time.
like the third one to like Ghostbusters 2. Because I'm like, oh sweet, Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and all those guys are
Well,
there.
that's what
Cool.
Afterlife was. Afterlife was the third one.
Oh, okay, so that's what Afterlife
They all
was.
come in at the end.
Oh, at the very end. Okay,
And
there we go.
Who's the one that died? Fred Armisen?
Angle.
Fred Armisen? Is that Fred Armisen? I'm
Yeah, it
mixing
might
up
be.
names.
I'm drawing his actor's name, but
Yeah, his CG version of him comes in at the end because he dies at the beginning, and
yeah.
so and it's his granddaughter. I'm sure they say that in the movie.
Yeah. I kind of started connecting the dots together in it, but it's just one of those ones that sound weird. It was just, it was very blah. Like that was kind of how it was. Like other than the parts that were great was like when Dan Aykroyd and stuff was there. Like okay, that part was good. I enjoyed all that and so on. And at least Dan Aykroyd had a bit of a role. And then he just, since it's Dan Aykroyd, he just looks goofy for whatever he's doing because he's just, Dan Aykroyd's slightly overweight, driving around two 14-year-old kids that aren't his.
Well, it's kind of like the last one. It was okay. It was one of those movies. Like I first saw the trailer and I was excited for it, and then I remember I was walking through like Target or something, and over by like the electronics, they'll have like their little like section of like figures and toys of like genre stuff and geek stuff or whatever. And I saw some figures for the upcoming Ghostbusters movies at the time, and I saw there's a little like 12-year-old kid action figure of someone named Podcast. I'm like, you know what? I just might wait for the reviews on this one. And then I heard the reviews. I'm like, I'm going to wait for streaming. And like, this was the right call. It was just one of those movies. It was like for a minute, like it was kind of like, oh, you guys are doing something kind of different. It's kind of interesting. You're putting it out in the Midwest. That's actually kind of a cool setting and new cast of characters. And okay, it's kind of slow for a minute, but it's kind of picking up. And then at the end, the original Ghostbusters come in and save the day, which is I'm happy to see them, but it was just kind of like they really had nothing going on earlier, except from one phone call from Dan Aykroyd. So just like, okay, so Deus Ex Ghostbusters at the end, and here's this one, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll check it out. Everyone is just like, yes, okay.
That's how it was. What wasn't god awful? Just was kind of, it was just boring. Now it sounds like you hate to sort of say that about it, something, but like that's sort of what
They
it was.
don't live
Just
up on the nostalgia either.
yeah, it's just one of those ones. It's like, I mean, the ice thing's kind of a cool concept. I think that's kind of neat and so on. But I don't know. It's just the kids. It's not like, I'll say this. It's not like there's anything wrong with any of the kids. It's not like one of those kids like fuck that kid. There's not a single kid that's like that. But it's just, I don't know. Like none of them capture you or anything like that. They feel like they're all like these, like someone. It has a feeling like a 15-year-old kid just got really into Steven Spielberg movies, and then it was like, oh, I know. What if I combine Steven Spielberg movie like vibes with Ghostbusters? I think we could do that. We could make it kind of like a hip kid adventure, and then they have a bunch of these old guys that kind of come out and show them the ropes, and that's what it sort of feels like. But it just feels nothing feels legit. Like it feels kind of like pandering, and I don't know. No. There's like something missing. There's like a natural element that I feel feels missing.
Well, it's also kind of like, I mean, I think the idea of like old generation leading into the next generation, I think that could be cool. I think that could fit. But at the exact same time, and I think there is room for like more, because the only Ghostbusters that's really good is the first one. I mean, there might be other ones that are enjoyable.
I do like the second one. I know it's a lot of people always look at me like you like the second one. Like I like the second one. Huh?
I like it, but I understand that it's just a it kind of is very much like more or less a remake of the movie that just came out a few years previously. And then even the all lady one, I didn't think that movie was awful. I don't think it was really even all that bad. It was just kind of like, why would I watch this one? I mean, I even like all the actresses in that movie. I'm just like, why would I watch this when I have the original? That's all it kind of was. And then Afterlife was like, oh, this is I like where this is going, and then it just went and leaned in, like pulled on the like nostalgia bar, and like, guess what? Zool is back. Guess what? The fucking dogs are back. Guess what? Stay Push Marshmallow Man. Like, okay, all right, you're doing the same shit all over again. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're not going forward.
And then this one, it sounds like I don't know how, but here they do all the nostalgia baity stuff again. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, don't get me wrong, I do look forward to a good sequel or a franchise I like, but a lot of them I'm just kind of like, can we just get like movies that come out and there's just one? Don't get me wrong, there's movies I look forward to sequels. There's movies I want to see sequels from, but I am at that point where, can we just get like, here's one movie, wasn't that fun? All right, on to the next thing.
Yeah, like let's just get some another nice original idea. Yeah, and it's one of those ones. Sometimes at this point in life, you're kind of like, they're always the time and place like you don't need to see everything. You know what I mean? And that's how I sort of feel about this one. It's like, I went to go see it. I felt like I hadn't went to the theaters too often this year. I'm like, I need to get use out of my Regal pass, so I'm like, let's go see Ghostbusters.
I watched Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia the other day. I was like, I mean, it's not a movie I can put on all the time because it is a movie that kind of meanders, but in a good way. And I was just like, you know what? Can we make more movies where just the guy dies at the end, so there's no sequel? There's no reason to have a sequel.
And then right when the guy dies at the end, go to the credits. You just like instantaneously, guy's dead, credits. Like no continual endings. Like that's my favorite part about 70s movies is just like, it's like, no, it's done. I was literally just watching Drunken Master again recently. I just like that, like Jackie Chan defeats the guy, everything's happy, credits. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's it. We don't need anything more. You know what I mean? There's no like, oh, what were they doing after? No. They didn't go home. They didn't go celebrate. We don't need to know all that stuff. It's just enemies defeated, done.
And of course, it depends on the movie, but sometimes there are those movies where like, let's just get to the fucking point, And I think that something like Drunken Master or Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia fall into those categories. So, yeah.
But speaking of other remakes, remasters, I don't know why you call it remaster, but it's a video game term. But we watched the Roadhouse 2024. Technically, I call it Roadhouse 3. Some jabroni I saw online was calling it Roadhouse 2. I'm like, yo, there's already a Roadhouse 2, you idiot.
No, there's not. I refuse to acknowledge that.
I'm not saying it's a good movie, and I've never actually seen it, but you have to. Somebody put the time, effort, and money into it, and if anything, that's all they got was the number.
Well, aside from it being a straight to DVD sequel, which maybe that might be good. The thing where I'm like, no. Apparently, it's the Dalton from the original died, and it's his son. So
Dalton they do one of those ones.
Dalton, I read the Wikipedia article on it. Yeah, so I was like, I wonder if, and then I look at the Wikipedia article, like, no, this never happened. So, for a minute, because his name is, I don't know if they ever say his first name in the original, but his name is supposed to be James Dalton. In this one, it's Elwood Dalton. So for a minute, when they say like where he's from, like, oh, I'm from, and he says like some. I remember. I want to say it was a Midwest state, and I'm like, was that where the original is from? I looked it up real quick. No, the original is Missouri. So no, because I think it was from like Montana. Because for a second I was like, are they trying to go sorry for Roadhouse 2? Here, but no, not the case.
Here's the other son.
Here's the good son. And he says, oh, by the way, dad's alive. Just he hates the other son, so he called him and said, I'm dead. Like he called him. He's not the brightest. No, yeah. All the good genes went to the side. Obviously, you could tell.
Well, the one that I think that did kind of, because, Roadhouse, the original one, in my opinion, is like a perfect movie. Like, it fires on all cylinders. It is good from beginning to end. Characters are amazing. It has that great slight over-the-top feel to everything like that. It's just badass the whole way through. That you are doing a huge undertaking by trying to make another Roadhouse. Like, that already is asking a lot.
Well, I hear a lot of people talk about Roadhouse, like, for a while before I saw it. Like, it's so bad, it's good. I'm like, oh, it's one of those movies. I'll get around to it. And then I heard you sing its praises, and I'm still like, I'll get around to it. Then I watch it. Like, it is cheesy, it is over the top, but it's by no means a bad movie.
No,
It's a
yeah.
really fucking good movie. And so when I eventually watched it, like, it's one of those cases where sometimes you watch something that came out a while ago, you're catching up on it, like, oh cool, this it feels like I'm seeing like something new, but something that kind of returns that feeling of a movie you would have seen like in the. I mean, I would have been too young to see it at the time, but I mean, something I would have seen on TV in my parents' living room when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Something kind of like that. So, it was, yeah, like that's probably one of my favorite movies from the '80s, Roadhouse. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really go into this with the highest expectations, but I didn't go in with super low expectations. And I guess before we go into like breaking it all down, I'll say I liked it. I thought it was good, but it's kind of, it's a really high stand. It's a really high thing to meet, you know?
No, that's kind of how I felt too. I went into it with middle of the road, like let's just see, and I came out and I'm like, you know what, I enjoyed that. It's not a legendary movie and it never will be. It can't compete with the original one in that way. But I still thought it did a lot of good in there too. I mean, it does feel like it's a straight to DVD movie. Like it doesn't feel like a theatrical. Like you see it, you go, this wouldn't. There's no way this would have been in the theaters. Like it does kind of have like a straight to DVD. Even just some of the stuff in it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but just because like the locations, it seems like they're at like 3 places all the time, and other than like a couple things like the boat chase and so on like that, that's like the only real like expensive feelings to some of the stuff. But and a lot of times I don't think boat chases are as expensive as I think they seem more expensive than they really are, but they're not really. It's like, okay, you rent a helicopter for a day, you get 2 boats to chase each other around. It's not really. It seems more exciting than it really is. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. It's not like you have to close off any roads or anything like that, like a car chase scene. And probably the boat stuff's way cheaper than that. So, but it's just because you don't see it as often, you think it's more expensive.
Yeah. Well, and even like the lot of the boat crash and stuff, a lot of that was probably CG. Yeah. Like,
well, yeah, they got a lot of like very heavy CG that you're like, oh, you could tell that it is. Or like when that truck backs up, like that truck's going way too fast.
Oh yeah.
Like no, that truck moved like cartoonish.
Well, I'll say this: it's one of those movies that like I liked it. I thought it was good. I think if because I know the original, and I think one of the things I like so much about the original is how like I think the movie itself knows how ridiculous it is, but it treats it so seriously. Like at the beginning, like and how like Dalton is just the ultimate, just like man's man. He gets slashed and he just looks at his arm like that's not a big deal, and then goes inside. He's sewing his arm with, he's just like, the guy comes in like, they say you're the best. Like, I need someone. I got a rowdy bar around. All the bouncers talk about Dalton's the best. Like, bouncers are just like the idea that this guy, like, bouncers are like, if you want someone for this place, you need Dalton. Like, the idea that, like, this Magnificent Seven as, like thing of bouncers, like, so it's kind of silly, but at the same time, how straight faced it is kind of makes it. And then like there's the small things where Dalton's like sewing up his arm, and he's like, here's a plane ticket right here. He's like, I don't fly, too dangerous. Stops and looks at the camera, goes back to sewing up his arm. But then there's like all the small, but then like when the action starts to happen, it's like it goes like from 0 to 60 on a lot of the stuff. How it goes from like, hey, you did not take my deal, so my friend with the monster truck's going to run over your used car lot, So, oh, by the way, it's like, and then it just ends with him like riding a car into this dude's house. He's like blowing fuckers away, and so it's like, that movie. If you've seen the original, it's going to go shithouse crazy by the end, and I'll say it goes shithouse crazy, but if you've seen the original, like you could have gone a little more crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is this one does stay more grounded, and that's probably the thing is they should have went more over the top with this. It's that one that like if you're gonna do a remake one, you almost should go even more crazy. You need stuff like the monster trucks, like they use like the motorcycle gang, and I will say I think motorcycle games are so lame. I when I see them, I go, though, that's the gayest thing ever is a motorcycle gang, especially this day and age. Like, you know what I mean? Like I never feel like that's tough or cool. Like, it's different if it's in the 60s or something like that. In the 70s, I think motorcycles, but by this point in life, like you see a bunch of guys on a motorcycle, you're just like, get the hell out of here. Like, what the like you know I don't know. It's like one of those ones. And let's be honest, like. Do even motorcycle games really even exist anymore? Like the only people you ever see riding motorcycles are like 90-year-old men, with big beards and like fat wives, like or there's just like that. There's the one, kid who's like, you know what, I'm gonna try to bring it back, like the Butters type character,
I still see a lot of people on motorcycles, but as far as like the motorcycle gang, I have a friend who back when I was in the States who it's just like, dude, me and this guy and this other guy, we just got some motorcycles. You want to go? You should get a motorcycle too. We could all like kind of go cruising around. I'm like, no. I'm like, oh come on, man, it'd be awesome. I'm like, I take a loan on my minimum wage job. It's not minimum wage job, but like my job barely over minimum wage to get a fucking motorcycle, something I don't really have any plan. No, fuck that. Why the fuck do I want to do that? Oh, come on, guy. It would just be us and the guys. I don't know these fucking guys. I know you. I don't know these fucking guys. Why the fuck do I want to spend all this money to go? Fuck that, And then I find out later, like a year and a half in, everybody just end up selling their motorcycles.
Yeah. Well, the thing to me, I always think is like all it takes is you take one wreck and that's it. One bad wreck and that can be it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the part's like, I feel like if there's nothing wrong with being into motorcycles, even though I just call them like the gang part gay, but, but it's that kind of thing.
Tough about it, like, okay.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that thing that like, you got to be all in or not at all. You can't just be like, you know what, I'm going to try this motor. No. You're either all in, that's your favorite thing in life is the motorcycle. And by all means, if that's your favorite thing in life, go for it. Do that dangerous stuff. But if you're just kind of like on the fence about it, then that means don't do it.
I mean, I checked out of season 2 of Sons of Anarchy, so like once season 2 got like, I get it, I'm done, So it's just kind of.
Well, it was like that Stallone show that came out not too long ago. The hell was it? Omaha or
I don't even know about this show.
Tulsa City or something like that. Tulsa King, that's what it's called. And it had like a motorcycle gang in there, and it just, to me, I just like, that just looks like a bunch of actors trying to look tough. Now, granted, I know that's what it is, but like, they were not even portraying it very well. Like, I'm like, dude, here, you know what? If you want to bring some real motorcycle guys that are real scary, you got to pull out, oh shit, what's that movie from the 60s with the Indian guy in it? Billy Jack. I haven't seen that. Motorcycle gang in that one is scary. That because it's like that time period where like it's like they're like scary hippie biker guys, and the way to rebel against your parents' generation is that you wear swastikas and all kinds of stuff. Because how do you piss off your parents more than anything else? Is the enemy that they just defeated? You now are wearing that, and you go around and you capture whoever you want and you rape whoever you want. Like I feel like they've so toned down bikers recently that they just feel like so goofy and lame. Like of course they're gonna lose. I know they're going to lose, you know what I mean? Like this one, like Billy Jack has really step it up, you know what I mean? And everybody's against Billy Jack no matter what. Whatever he does, he can't do anything right, but he has to fight his way in there.
I'm just thinking of, after you said that, I'm just thinking of the rabbit from Fritz the Cat, who also has like a swastika tattoo at the end and all that. So like, oh, that kind of biker. Right. The rabbit from Fritz the Cat. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's the thing, though. At least this gang, they don't ask you to take this gang seriously. This gang is a joke, and even like there's the one guy who is so repentingly just such a dumbass and just keeps on going. And you when he goes, like okay, I mean, I'm glad an alligator got him, because I'll say this movie has like there's a couple of characters that are like there's no Sam Elliott character.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of weird. I was waiting for him to kind of come the whole time. I'm like, oh, that's a strange one not to have. I don't know who you would have had play it, but
I was also kind of like I was also kind of waiting on Conor McGregor. I used to fuck guys like you in prison. Like I mean,
yeah, they didn't use that line either, too. That's all I was thinking of because I was like, dude, I would love to see Conor McGregor say that.
I know sometimes it's like they don't like. Oh, of course you're going to say the line. Of course you're going to do the fan service. But like, if there's a fan service line, but like, yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's the thing is like sometimes I feel like there's things like that like they get toned down, like you know what I mean in movies. It's like, but that would have been such a perfect one to have for just Conor McGregor saying it because I will say I think he's the best part of it. Conor McGregor, I was like, holy shit, we need to get this guy in a Guy Ritchie movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
He's just basically an agent of chaos. We'll actually get to him in a second because he's like more or less the later
Yeah,
half of the
later
movie.
in the movie.
But like, it's kind of like something I do like about on because how do I put it? The things they change, I like the most part, not because I think it's ultimately better, but just because it mixes it up. Like the thing with, I think this is a good reinterpretation of Dalton, where first Dalton, he was a little like troubled, but he wasn't like suicidal. He didn't care. He carried guilt with him, but he was just kind of like stone faced, forcing it. Where this is a Dalton where he knows he has anger issues, so he tries to remain calm and zen as possible. And he knows he has an ego, so he tries to be as chill and cool as possible. Where he leaves, he doesn't leave because his friend got killed and because he feels like it's not worth it. He leaves because he knows if he snaps, he's going to go all in and just fucking destroy these guys. And I think that's a good substitute for no Sam Elliott. I think that's a good a good way to differentiate the character from the original, and even to the point of like how he's almost kind of like sociopathic with it, like how he kills the one guy, just no problem, kills him. Oh, by the way, I just collapsed your windpipe, and then pushes him into the water and this and that. And then he frames the cop, and the cop's like, "What did you do to me?" He's like, "Well, you're not gonna remember this part because if you've been fighting as much as me, you know that short-term memory does not last." And he just like bashes his face in with a piece of wood. So it's like I kind of like that type of shit, you know?
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, there's tons of great moments like that throughout there. And Jake Gyllenhaal, he is that kind of actor that he's like that guy who's, I've thought this my whole life, but he's kind of a goober actor, but he has really come around multiple times over and just been like, yeah, he does some really good jobs here and there. He's like a guy who should not achieve as much as he does. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but he just like, you know what I mean? But he does. And I think that like the fact that he's able to overcome it. So even like I'll go back to even like the Prince of Persia thing. Like, yeah, he's about the least Middle Eastern looking person of all, but I have to say, like, he puts in 150% effort into that and looks just like the character in the game. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I always kind of think about with Jake Gyllenhaal. He's one of those guys who like, he always seems like an odd choice, but then you see him, he's like, oh, he goes the distance. He doesn't back down.
I thought he was really good in Spider-Man, the movie he was in, the Far From Home, I think it was. I think he's always good whenever I see him. He's just never like the person you immediately think of when you think of like they're getting Jake Gyllenhaal to play this character or that character, and then he does it. Oh, he fucking knocked it out of the park. Now maybe Prince of Persia, maybe should have gone someone different for that, but I do believe.
But he still looked for what it was. It was like, oh well, okay, yeah, it's a weird choice, but he did go the distance. I mean, like he looks just like the game character, so I guess you can't complain there.
Spray on tan and all, yeah,
yeah.
But then like this movie, and this was apparently a passion project of his. So I think making it set in the Florida Keys was good. It just would have been nice. It was more than just that shopping center, and then some of like the water out there. And I even kind of like think the choice of the villain, like the villain is very hateable because he's not some guy who built it up himself. He's a rich kid, but the idea that he's a rich kid, but he's inherited his dad's problems, and so he's trying to figure it out on his own to try and fix it, and he's just kind of fucking up, and he's slowly losing money. Like I thought that was a interesting contrast, you know?
Yeah, no, I thought that guy was actually done kind of well too, and just like the way that like he just had comedicness to him too. Like when you're first introduced to him, he's out on on his yacht, and the water's all choppy, and he's trying to get a straight razor shave, and he's telling the guys like, "Hey, I'll be fine, it's fine." The captain said it'll be okay. Keep going, get the other side, and he keeps getting cut over and over. But he's like, "Hey, it's okay, I get it."
Just keep your wrist loose. So you see the guy just shaking as he's trying to like go in, and then like there's even I think what's her name? Is it Jessica Williams? I believe is the bar owner. Is that Jessica Williams?
I don't realistically, other than Conor
Williams,
McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal. That's the only two people I recognize in this film.
Yeah, Jessica Williams, I thought did a good job as because every so often there's like they'll like change a character so much, but I think she was definitely a good like updated version for that, and I always like her in other things I see her in. So it's cool to see. I didn't even know she was in this movie, so I was like, oh cool, But and then like I mean, I think this movie could have done like amped up. I mean, I think some of the things they amped up on was Conor McGregor. Like, I think him coming in and being like, because I don't remember the name of. I'm not sure if the character in the original's name was Knox or Nux or whatever it was. Um,
Probably
there
wasn't.
was,
He's like Italian. I can't imagine an Italian guy being named that.
yeah. Well, the thing is, because he was just the silent guy with his arms crossed there, and then he would come in and knock some shit up, and then he got his throat ripped out like before the final battle, basically, and I was kind of expecting like, all right, I know in the UFC fight he's gonna like accidentally kill his friend or whatever in a blind fit of rage. I knew that was gonna happen, but I was like, is it gonna be the throat rip? Now I know I'm one of those people. I know I just at the
Yeah.
earlier point of the show I said, can we do something other than just sequels and remakes? But I'm at the same time like, well, it's Roadhouse. It's got to go fucking crazy. It's got to go intense. It's going to be the throat rip because that's the funny thing about the throat rip because Sam Elliott is just like you did what you had to do. If a man points another loaded gun at you, there's one thing you do: lay down and die, or kill that motherfucker. Like, I promise to never rip a throat again. I promise to never rip a throat again. Like, so like the idea that like I ripped a throat again, I can't, and then like he just chucks the guy into the fucking river. Like, there's so many fucking amazing moments in that. And then like this is just like he punches his friend's head like 4 times really hard. Like, I get it, that's fucked up. That's more real. But I mean, I don't know. He could have like ripped his arm off and like beat him with it or something. I don't know. And then like it's like shit. I ripped his arm off and beat it with him again. I swore off that.
Well, even like when I was watching that part with the UFC thing there too, it's like that one where, when Jake Gyllenhaal comes in with fucking like a tiger knee strike, like he's Sagat or something like that. I'm pretty sure that would have been the moment that they would have called the match off because those UFC guys don't wait around for anything. It's not, you know what I mean? Like that, it's like, and then he gets like 6 more hits and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That was, you know what I mean? Like what was that? What was that? Like the ref get distracted like it was WWE or something like that? Like, what's going on here?
The ref's like, oh fuck, where's this going? Oh shit, it's my job. Hey.
He was getting into it. One of those things there. And then also in this one too, they pretty much, because like the other thing about Roadhouse that I think I like a lot about too is it actually plays a lot like a kung fu movie. Like that's how it like kind of has a feel. Like it's a very American, like a high American but kind of kung fu vibe. And that's what Sam Elliott kind of reminds. He's the master and everything like that. Where in this one they kind of replace the kung fu with UFC, so it's more sport oriented. And I think that's what kind of loses the master element and so on. But the UFC sting, I feel like that works for a modern context. You know what I mean? That's the one. And I was actually kind of surprised that they had official UFC stuff in there. Like I was like, oh shit, they have official UFC. That felt like that kind of brought the production value actually much more up. I know they got Conor McGregor, so he was probably the one that talked him into it. But
I feel like it's also something to the effect of um with the original, because it was kind of like a Western / martial arts movie. And because Westerns and martial arts often have like the same kind of setup, Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, Yojimbo, Fistful of Dollars, they often have, even though those are sword oriented, I feel like they often do carry the same thing of like some lone stranger who can kick ass or shoot a gun walks into town and does X, Y, or Z like this.
yeah.
I did think it was a little much for like hi, I'm just the innocent neighbor girl who is here for no other reason to be victimized later. Nothing bad's gonna happen to me. It's just when I saw her and she would always come in and just like do the meta thing about talking about like, so you're like the Western hero coming in to save the day, like. And whenever she was on screen, I just think there's that episode of Family Guy where Peter becomes death for a second, and he's contemplating about like crashing a plane, and he's looking around at everybody, and there's a bunch of little girls like singing, "We like being alive, we like being alive." Like I just couldn't help but hear that whenever I saw that girl like on screen, just try to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just the super happy cheery girl." Granted, she doesn't die, but I'm like, let's be honest. What's the real reason you're fucking here? Come on.
Well, there's some dialogue in this movie that it's also read sort of like it feels a little bit off, and it also feels like it's being just read off like a teleprompter. That girl kind of has that problem, and so the bar owner has some lines that sort of feel like she's just here to explain what is going on. Like she talks kind of like this, like, let's get you caught up to speed, and it's just like, oh, okay. Sure. I feel like that could have been a lot more creatively written, but hey.
I guess I don't remember that as much with Jessica Williams, but I can kind of see what you mean because she was just mostly exposition machine for the most part. She had some funny lines.
She had some good funny lines. That definitely broke it up, but she did just have exposition. It looked like she was just reading off a teleprompter. It didn't even feel like acting necessarily.
I felt that more with the neighbor girl, but and just like we own a bookstore, like out here. What the fuck? Who's your fucking customers? So
yeah, they're like, I don't even know how there's that many people that show up at the Roadhouse. Like, who the hell lives in this town?
Yeah, exactly. And then I thought the location of the Roadhouse was cool. Like I think the idea of being the Florida Keys is pretty neat, and I'll even go as far as I think a lot of the action, like because you were talking earlier about the UFC fighting. I mean, because one thing that always kind of like made me kind of check out of the UFC eventually. I mean, there's sometimes I'll watch a good fight or a good match or whatever, but it always ends at the end of the day. And I know that this is. Here's the thing. I know it's basically the most grappling and locks I know are technically the best way to actually fight. It's the most effective way to fight. But at the end of the day, it gets kind of boring just watching a couple guys get each other locks and just try to hump each other's heads. You know what I mean? Like when they're in there doing that actual kicks and punches, that's what I'm into. But most UFC matches, from what I've seen, always end with two shaved head dudes on the ground wrestling each other, like dry humping each other's heads. And, I mean, I get it. That's how you usually win a fight in those situations. Not every aspect, but in those situations, maybe that's how you win those kind of fights. But it's like, so I appreciate that most of the fights in this were more stylized, like a martial arts movie. Like it didn't feel like, I know it was more kickboxing, UFC oriented, but it didn't feel like too much like overly realistic,
Yeah, they didn't fight UFC style, which is, I have to say, is kind of nice. As I said, I'm not 100% against it, but it's just it feels like I like a little bit of pizzazz to my martial arts. I think that's the thing is when you've been watching kung fu movies and watching wrestling your whole life, it's like the UFC always feels like sort of a downgrade. I know most people look at you like a crazy person when you say those kind of things, but I'm like, once you've upped the ante on other things, it's kind of hard to go backwards.
Well, from what I hear, like when UFC first started, it was originally, and we'll get back to the main subject in a second. When it first started, it was like you were watching Tekken or Street Fighter. Like you would watch a guy who knew Jeet Kune Do go up against a guy who knew like sumo wrestling. You watch a guy who was like a boxer go up against like someone who knew Taekwondo. It was just like this. Mm-hmm. It was like watching Street Fighter or something like that. But then you had people adapting and learning, and then mixed martial arts came mixed martial arts came about, and those guys would always win. So at the end of the day, that is probably more effective than like kung fu or taekwondo. But as far as watching it, I don't want to sound like lame, like entertain me, but it's just like I heard, I was listening to a martial arts podcast some time ago, and someone said like, well, I honestly think it was the UFC boom that kind of killed a lot of martial arts for people, because it's not as like cool and stylish. People want this is all just kind of a cool choreographed dance. You want to see the real gritty thing of people getting in the locks and going down like in UFC. I'm like, I kind of see that mindset, but I'm like, that's probably what did it in, really,
Well, it's because UFC is kind of like two stock cars fighting each other. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see stuff where it's like, can like the guys at least be characters? Can they at least have some backstory? You know what I mean? Like, I know it might seem unrealistic, but can at least somebody have some cool hair, not some stupid looking cornrows that are like strapped down as tight as possible that you're gonna go bald faster because of it. Like it's one of those ones like it's like and I get it, like it's going for like in a survival position, like where what's gonna do you best, it's there, but like it feels like it's missing like what would make me want to watch it or something like that. But that's my problem with sports in general for the most part, is that there's just not enough backstory, not enough character.
No Vince McMahon-esque character to come out and like just
yeah. So as I said, I'm not opposed to it. If someone has a UFC match going on, I am down for watching it. You know what I mean? I could go like, okay, we got shaved head Mexican guy versus shaved head white guy. Let's see who goes for this. I mean, I'm down for that too. But
Yeah,
it's one of those ones though. It's just not the same though as like having characters, and for me, I appreciate the martial arts of like the old school different styles. Like I love that so much that it's hard for me just to accept that everybody's been melded into one, melting pot of kung fu, and that's all we're gonna get.
I guess if it works, it works in this, So, but I just think if Bruce Lee was alive, he'd probably be like a big proponent of like mixed martial arts or something like that. So I'm like, yeah, okay. If Bruce
Yeah.
was here, because this all kind of to some extent extends from Jeet Kune Do to one way or another. But at the same time, though, well, going back to the UFC ness of it, the biggest UFC thing of it, because they really said let's really Jokerify like Conor McGregor, and the idea that he's just kind of like this fucking crazy asshole who just loves to like cause chaos wherever he goes just for the fuck of it because he's bored.
Yeah, I just love when they introduce him. He just like jumps out of this room naked, just like banging some chick. He's just walking down this like, kind of like almost
He was in Italy or something.
outside market, yeah, in Italy or something like that. He's just bare ass naked doing the Conor McGregor strut, talking on the phone. He just forcefully takes the clothes off some guy, and then when you see him, like it like does like a hard cut, and the next thing you know, that entire market's all in fire and flames, and people are running around, and he's only got a shirt on but no pants, and he's walking back out. He's like, "Yeah, I'll meet you there."
And then like it's some of the small things they do, like they have a transition with him where you see him driving and he has like four coconuts in the car. You can see he drank and he just chucks it out, and then like I don't even remember what he's listening to, and then he gets out of the car, he like crashes the car into
Yeah,
like
he always crashes the car.
he crashes the car like into a palm tree, and we see it's a student driver car, so like so it's just kind of like so it's just things like that, or there's even like I want to like there's the part where like because the dad of the bad guy calls him in and says, look, I need you to handle it because my son's fucking this up, and the son has his own the motorcycle gang or his goons, and he goes over to those guys' place and says like, yeah, somebody should do about something to all those bikes that got knocked over or something like that, because he used to like to domino over their motorcycles or whatever. And they're like, who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck are you? Like then they realize that the dad hired him, just like, hey man, okay, I'm gonna try this, like I'm gonna try and do it the easy way one more time, and then if that goes bad, I'll let you in. He's like, I remember what he said. He's like, okay, good luck with that, or something like that. So, and he's just waiting out there with like a golf club, just waiting to fuck shit up.
Yeah, I know. Like the Conor McGregor part, like it's like in a sense, I feel more people need to have that energy throughout it. I mean, I guess that sort of the over the topness, like because he just like killed it. Like it felt like, oh, here we go. Like let's see him in more movies, and I'd be pretty stoked for that.
Something I totally forgot about till I saw I was double checking the IMDb. I think it's so funny. At the beginning, they had like, "Oh, get ready, Post Malone." Like anybody
oh,
like was really fucking scared of Post Malone. It just came.
yeah, it's just like, oh, here he comes shoehorning his way into another place.
It's just one of those things. Like I cannot imagine like some backyard wrestling thing. Well, yeah, backyard wrestling thing. Yeah, I mean, he at least was. I do appreciate that he was like smart enough to be like, do you know who he is? And he just got the fuck out of there. I do appreciate that. But then like, I was just like, oh my god, like yeah, like Post Malone would be like wrecking house, and I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was fucking funny. It was just kind of like, I don't know, like what's the example I was thinking of? It's like I know he was a character, but it's like there's one of those like Def Jam fighting games that give it a story, and I think the final boss of the game is like Snoop Dogg, and he's all just fucking jacked. I'm like, okay, I'll ride with you like on Method Man or anybody else or whoever else was in that game, but like Snoop Dogg, come on. You really, the dude's like 45 pounds wet. Get the fuck out of here. Come on,
In this world, that's where they're all jacked and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but so it's just kind of like, I mean, honestly, I think Snoop Dogg would probably more likely fuck up Post Malone. In all honesty,
Yeah, exactly.
he's
It's
probably
got
got speed. He's got speed. He's got like a bad pimp slap probably too. So
yeah, one of those there. Those Def Jam games actually were pretty sweet though.
I remember them being fun. Yeah.
Well, because they had the good WWF engine from the N64 era, so like that was the kind of the cool thing. It was like the continuation of that. But and it was just kind of cool to see it. Like that's the thing is like when I remember when that game came out, I'm like, this is like the game that I always wanted, but I always wanted this for rock and roll characters, and just will never get that.
Like Tom Morello versus like Ace Frehley or something like that.
Yeah, just like, and he's like, I'd take a wrestling game like that too. Tom Morello's just slamming Ace 3 for like a table or something there.
I don't know why I went to Ace Frehley and not Gene Simmons, but I guess Gene Simmons just seemed too common, you know?
Yeah, well, Ace Frehley just had his new album out, so he thinks he's going to be living the dream because he's
Oh,
the only Kiss member still performing.
well, good luck to him. I hope it all pans out for Ace. I've been rooting for him for a long time. I hope this one works out for him, you know?
Yeah, boy, he seems excited about it. I think he was on like Chris Jericho's podcast, and it just almost feels like he just sort of got shuffled into the recording studio by like the trickster guitarist or whatever, and just like, hey Ace, play this. Oh, what? Just go. Oh, okay. Yeah, good enough. It just felt like it was a lot of that. Like, we'll edit it later and it'll all come together.
They're just here just so you hear the cut in between like the lyrics or something.
Yeah, one of those ones like that. But yeah, going hard on there. But yeah, Roadhouse, wherever we're at, Conor McGregor and so on like that. No, his scenes are all great and amazing. He really shows up, especially all the the fight scenes that they have. Like, that's one thing I will say. All the fight scenes are great in this one, like just the fist fights and all that stuff. Jake Gyllenhaal, he kills it in there. He put the training and effort into it and so on like that. Even to the point where the one thing that's kind of weird though is like the violence level is kind of low. It's like it's that weird one that this movie kind of feels more like it's the PG-13. It's got rated R elements in it, but there's nothing extremely rated R in it like that. Like Roadhouse, the original one has. There's no throat ripping. You know what I mean? There's no like anything else like that. There's even not really too much of a threat to like the town. You know what I mean? Like, because, I hate to sort of say it, but my 70s brain kicks in. And when you see that 14-year-old girl at the bookstore, you're like, nothing's good's going to happen here. You know what I mean? Like, that is set up for something terrible. Here comes this motorcycle gang that they're going to take her. No, nothing ever happens. And it's like one of those ones, like, so sometimes, and I know that sounds weird, but it's like sometimes I just like you need those extreme like reasons. Like, come on, you got to go the distance here to make these people seem real evil and terrible, and why you got to stop them.
I don't need him to go all like, like boys don't cry or some shit with that. But at the same time, like I also like, I think that they could have amped up there could have just been more stakes than like a shopping center that's just a little bit further down from this bar. You know what I mean? I think they could have done a little bit more. And they say that this is like one of the last parts of this town. I'm like, well, this town sounds like it fucking sucks. But like, but at the same time,
the weird thing too is it even mentioned later is that the bar owner lady, she's like, oh yeah, I just have the last point that the boy needs to buy so he can put in his like super like resort complex in. It's just like, oh well, in the original Roadhouse, the guy was buying up all of the town. There was more places that he had that they had to take over, and this one just feels like so there's really just one, and then a bookstore that's just kind of in the way.
Yeah, exactly. So. But like, and when you think about the plan kind of falls apart. You think the guy could just be like, I'm just going to build it around this, and you know what? We could even do like a deal with, go to there's a cool little roadhouse, like just like a short walk this way. I mean, if you really think about it, but you have to have like, do you want a movie to happen or not? So it's kind of like that.
Yeah. The Florida Keys is probably not the best place for that because there's too much space.
But then there's also like, what's the other thing with this? Like, I will say, like, if I knew nothing about the original Roadhouse and I watch this, I probably would be really impressed with how crazy shit goes at the end. Because from how Dalton is acting from the beginning of the movie, and there's a darker side to him, but beginning of the movie to the point where he's like blowing up like a boat, and the one guy, this would seem like a little old school kind of Roadhouse. Like the one guy runs out on fire screaming, and he just punched the guy in the face and kind of ran past him. Like
Yeah.
that felt like something you'd see in the original Roadhouse. But knowing how crazy the original is, and seeing this one go like like I said, I feel like if I never saw the original, then I'm like, dude, this movie goes fucking crazy at the end. He just finally snaps, and like, well, I've seen other movies where they go a little crazier than this, and knowing what's behind the original Roadhouse, I am kind of like, okay, no, don't get me wrong. There's some great moments, some great action. I was enjoying the movie the whole way through.
Mhm.
And I even thought like a lot of the smaller bypassing dialogue was pretty good, especially with Dalton. But
Yeah.
overall, I just kind of like I like the movie. I like it. I I think it's worth checking out, but I don't feel the need to like own it like I do the original Roadhouse.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. You know what I mean? It's like I definitely think it's worth watching. Like I was more impressed with it than I thought, and I do think the action is cool. I think Conor McGregor is 100% worth watching just for that alone. I mean, gosh, it's even there's like we even forget that they do have the nurse lady in it too, but they make her, I think she's like Cuban or something like that in this one. I'm just assuming
It's the girl that played Ratcatcher in the new Suicide Squad.
kind of there. And so, but once again, this is a perfect example. Like the stakes even there, it's like even the part where they're like, oh, she got captured, and it's just like, oh, did she? It's like, yeah, her dad's like, I don't really care, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, she's not captured. Oh, she is captured. Oh, well, she's just down below. It's like it was one of those ones like, oh, okay, well. And then it's like one of those ones like she just like shoots out with her there. It's like it felt like it was like it could have been a little bit more extreme. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, and you're free and you're out of here.
Well, I even feel kind of like there is more of a sense of, because the first one was all about a town. It's all about a town, where this is more about a bar and a couple businesses nearby. And even though I don't remember every character or every interaction he had, I remember it being more of a sense of community. I remember when watching it, I was thinking, oh, there's that guy. Oh, there's that guy. Where here, I was like, there's like four people. There's there's like, and a lot of them didn't even feel like they're all that connected. There's the nurse who felt disconnected from everyone else.
Yeah, wherever the hell that the hospital is, like that's the thing is none of these things it feels like literally you take like warp points to each one of these things,
like three peninsulas over or something, and then
yeah.
then like you have to swim there, and then there is Jessica Williams. There's the two bodyguards, the two guys that were learning who I liked them. They didn't really have a whole lot of moments, but I liked them. Then there was the lady bartender and then there's the girl and her dad, and the dad barely says anything. And those are like, and I guess like if you think back on the original Roadhouse, you had roughly that many main characters, but there's still always enough other people around to make it feel like an actual community that care. Oh, and then you had also in the original Roadhouse, you also had the band members, and I want to say there's a couple other guys in like a staff within there, and it felt like you had like the nurse or the surgeon was also knew everybody, so everybody here just felt way more distant and not as connected. And I guess that didn't really have as much impact, because at the end of the original Roadhouse, the town saves Dalton. After Dalton puts his life on the line and fucks everybody up, he gets sucker punched, and the town comes in and then saves Dalton themselves. So without that, I guess it didn't really have as much oomph to it,
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I felt. It's just like there's just something really kind of missing and disconnected throughout this and so on, and yeah, it should have had like a small town atmosphere no matter what. Even if it's in the Florida Keys, like you could just combine like it's one of those. I mean, I don't know how, other than by movies, I don't know what the Florida Keys looks like, but it's one of those ones like you could have just had like if everything took place on one little peninsula thing, like, you know what I mean? Like the hospital was here, the little town stores were here, the roadhouse was here, the housing community was like whatever. And it was this small little town section. The police department was here. Everybody knew each other and so on like that, And then they even and this one they try to throw in some other like characters too, because then they had the police that came in all of a sudden. There was a guy named Big Dick who was they
The
made you feel
dad.
like
Yeah.
he was supposed to be something like big deal, and then it was kind of like, oh, that's it. Like you blurred out his face like you're gonna get Bruce Willis or something to be in there. Then it's like oh okay, and it's like oh it's her dad. Oh he
I've
doesn't like her
seen.
daughter, and then she had a weird one. She's like I literally changed my name and ran away and all that stuff. I don't know why I came back. Why the hell did you come back? Like it's not like there's you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like there was like a drive to come back for her. She just sort of came back. You know what I mean? Like
You know what? I was trying to remember where I've seen that guy before. One where we've both seen him.
yeah.
He was the main bad guy in Desperado, Bucho.
Really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting then. Maybe that's it. As I said, like I was trying to picture who that guy was the whole time. Like he's obviously got to be somebody.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have had his introduction like that. But they had that kind of weird thing where there was like, okay, there were some good cops, there were some bad cops, but we never really went into whole detail of it. Who are the good, who are the bad? Ex-boyfriend cop who just has a boat that, we see him like twice. Hey, don't take my boat. You're doing it. Oh, well, 2 hours. Don't put a scratch on it. He's gonna scratch it.
Oh, Charlie Kuckenstein. Yeah, yeah, basically.
Yeah, like that cop's doing a whole lot of good for the community.
I think that guy could have been there a little bit more just to like be kind of like, just the guy like, I'll get her back one day, just one day, don't let you see. I'm like, yeah, sure, But like, that guy was also, I just saw that guy was also in Fast Five, so I'm guessing he was probably the mob boss or something in Fast Five, the Big Dick
Yeah.
or whatever his name was. Yeah, no, it's one of those movies like I've already said it, but like I liked it. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
If I've never saw the previous one, I'd probably be a lot more impressed with it. And it's kind of like maybe I'm thinking this because it's also Jake Gyllenhaal, but there's that movie, a movie that's better than this. Though I don't know if I'd say it's better than the first Roadhouse, Nightcrawler.
That's
Where,
a good movie.
yeah, where he is kind of like this, like very like, because he's not a good guy in that. He's not a good guy, but he's like a very like, the movie just kind of spirals out of control, and he fucking gets away with it at the end. Like
Yep.
this seems kind of like the more Hollywood version, because he actually, because that's the thing about this movie, because Dalton plays it like the nice average. That's something I liked about it. He plays like the nice average, good guy throughout the whole movie, and then the last act happens, and he's like, I'm fucking done with this shit, and he has like sociopathic tendencies, and that's what I liked about that. But I guess that came a little too late for me, you know what I mean? Came into like the last act, and we didn't get to see much of that, so it was like I said, it was still fun, still worth watching, but it kind of just made me want to watch the original, in all honesty.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that. It's just like it's like a warm-up movie for the original and so on. What's another weird thing I noticed too is they never mentioned the word cooler in this one either, because that was always the big word I felt of Roadhouse, is that you had the bouncers were kind of like the underlings, and then the cooler was the guy who was in charge of all of them, and his job was just to cool down the situations. That was the key thing, and they didn't mention anything of that in this movie. So I felt like it loses like what I would kind of call. I mean, it still has like the be nice kind of, because it has sort of like, once again, Roadhouse has that martial arts kind of vibe into it, like where fighting is the last resort. I mean, you try to disarm the situation, so on, and it does still have that here in it. But like, I don't know what it was. I still felt like there could have been a little bit more of that mentioning in there.
They don't have, and once again, I'm not saying I'm looking for line, but I think it was like, it just summed up Dalton so perfectly, which was be nice until it's time not to be nice. I think it was something kind of like that.
Yeah.
And this one, it's more of like, okay, pal, time to go. Like, like being totally chill, and the way how he instructed the other guys on how to fight. Like, I thought that was pretty cool too. And I do think it's interesting and kind of funny how like quickly certain things like escalate, like how like quickly things would just like, hey man, you gotta go, and then all of a sudden a knife gets pulled out, so like in that aspect, I guess that was kind of that was kind of over top and kind of funny. But I guess the thing I like about like the original Roadhouse, it sort of feels like, I know it's not this, but it almost feels like a Streets of Rage-esque brawler film of a
Hmm.
brawler video game got like a surprisingly accurate like movie adaptation very early on. Like, if, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I like about that movie, because that really feels like, like I can almost imagine that just kind of like the brawler video game, or like, or like bouncer video game, something kind of
Yeah.
like that, and it would be modeled after Roadhouse, and because that's what, cause, like I said, because how over the top that movie is, it feels like it lends itself, but it doesn't ever go over so over the top where it's just like it seems like, well, I mean, it's unrealistic, but it's not unrealistic to like
Well, yeah, it's not ridiculous.
it's
It's just slightly over the top.
it's just a very earnest, very sincere, like stone face kind of like thing, kind of like Dalton,
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
there's
Yeah,
no there's no like there's no tongue in cheekness with it.
as I said, that's the thing. Is this new one's good, but it's that one that I feel like it's just, the movie just kind of come and go, and then it will literally be in around that similar category where people will like in 10 years from now, like they'll remember the original Roadhouse. This one might be kind of like sort of sitting there in like the extra bin.
If we're talking about like 80s classic remakes that got in around that time, I definitely think this is one of the better ones. Like, it's definitely better than the Total Recall remake. I think it's better than the RoboCop remake. It's better than what was the other one?
But better than the
Uh,
Ghostbusters, even though I guess the third one is not a remake.
yeah. I mean, I liked it more than the 2015 or 2016 one, whatever that was. Um, but yeah, like, I liked it. Like I said,
Yeah, yeah.
we said it.
Yeah, it's still solid. I definitely think it's worth watching. The action in it is great, and I think the biggest takeaway will be Conor McGregor and where he goes from next with this, because his acting in here, I thought he just killed it. You just want to see. Plus, he was like twice as big as he's ever been. So I was like, oh, there we go. Because when you're in the UFC, you pretty much you fight as a boy, and then like when you come in the movies, you can become a man. And I could call Conor McGregor a boy because I think he's actually younger than us. It's weird to think of that kind of stuff.
Is he? Please don't tell me that.
Probably is because he was only fighting the UFC a couple of years ago. It seemed like so. It's like, and that was towards the end of his career. So he probably,
Fuck me. He is. He's like younger
yeah,
than me
yeah.
by like. He's 2 years younger than me. Fuck me.
We can call him a boy.
Yeah, we'll do that right when we're face to face with him. Because he's so good at taking any form of criticism. Like an old Irish man refused like to take some of his whiskey after he lost. Like there's like camera footage of him in a bar. Like somebody like this almost feels like a Conor McGregor documentary almost. We just followed Conor for a day, and this is just what happened. But but it was like he lost after he lost his fight with that one Russian guy or whatever. And she's like, I'm getting rounds of my whiskey for everybody, and some old Irish man's like, you lost to the Russian. He punched that dude in the back of the head and like ran out. Like, fucking, he's an old man, dude. Come the fuck on. Just hold it down for a fucking second.
I love how an old man's the only one's gonna say it too. Like, you lost to the Russian boy.
He has more. Fucking more balls. Everybody else is just like, should we tell him we don't like his fucking dog shit whiskey? Like, don't fuck. Yeah. Rounds. Let's go. That sounds great. And like, Seamus, don't say it. No, I'm gonna fucking say it. Seamus, don't say it. You lost to the Russian.
uh, yeah, as I said, I think to see Conor McGregor in a Guy Ritchie film, I think would be the best place for him to be kind of like worked out well.
just Conor McGregor's day out. That's all it is. Just see what he does. Yeah.
Because I feel like Guy Ritchie movies are mostly always like ensemble cast pieces, so I think that'd be a perfect place for him to kind of go next.
He's a Guy Ritchie
he
villain.
doesn't have to be the guy holding down the entire movie, but he could be either a villain or a good guy, even whatever you want to have him sort of be. But
He could
just let
be,
him kind of practice some stuff in there.
Yeah. I mean, he could be. I mean, he's hardly acting. He's basically just like yuckling and just like doing the
Conor
the
McGregor walk.
chicken the chicken hawk walk basically throughout this fucking Looney Tunes.
Well, yeah, he's definitely playing to his strengths, I guess, is what he's kind of doing.
I can't take credit for the chicken hawk thing. Double Toasted mentioned that. I'm like, that's fucking dead on. Yeah. No, but yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. If you have Amazon Prime, check it out when you can,
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. I mean, it's got cool action. It's fun enough. I think it's just that one. It's just if you know the original Roadhouse, it's just too easy to kind of go, what if or why not, or you start asking all the questions and so on like that. You know what I mean? And I mean that goes with all remakes in general, but at least this one was still R, because I was like, a lot of the other ones we mentioned before, like, well, that was kind of the problem with some things like the RoboCop and like the Total Recalls. They're PG-13, But it's weird how that happens though, because even this movie does feel more tamer than the '80s one. Like it's like stuff always gets more tame, like when they do remakes. It's weird how you think that like, oh, they're gonna do a remake, so it's gonna be more intense. Almost never is. Once in a blue moon, there might be a couple movies that are, but it's like horror movies. Like horror movies almost never are. They're mostly always like kids versions compared to the previous one.
A lot of times it kind of becomes that. I want to say, well, I'm trying to think of. I want to say what's the. God, it was I can't. It was originally the Mechanic. I think the Mechanic.
Oh,
Yeah,
the Mechanic with Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson one, then Jason Statham was in the remake. Charles Bronson one. I think that's one of the few cases where the original was PG, which was PG-13 for the time, and then the second one, the remake was R. But I mean, I think it's a little different on average. If it's a legacy title of some kind, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't most ones that like that's one of those movies a little bit more of a hidden gem one. So people are like, oh shit, they're like bring back the Mechanic. You know what I mean?
I'll be 100% honest. Even though I like Charles Bronson more, I liked the. I mean, by the end, even though he's like, okay, it's all about just making it look like an accident. And then by the end, they have like, they're like not wearing gloves on anything, just unloading machine guns and like, like just, like making a huge mess of everything. Like by the end, like, okay, the concept is gone, but it's still a fun, dumb action movie. Plus Ben Forster
Yeah.
is like the fuck up apprentice. So I'm like, all right, that's kind of fun.
No, that was a fun one. But you and me. I'm not saying they don't exist, and there is ones like that. But
and I'm not trying to be like, technically,
technically there is such one.
2013's Mechanic. No.
I mean, like I personally like the Rob Zombie Halloween remake even more. Like that's my favorite one, like there, because I felt like it had more story and elements to it there, and it kind of got everything sort of right, and as far as like the brutality and things like that to be had, But yeah, so many times though, I just think that that's like the one thing I kind of notice is like they always kind of feel like they'll do a new one, and it's like it feels a little bit more like polished and softer around the edges. You know what I mean? Like, like the kids' gloves were sort of odd. It didn't go full like it wasn't like they dropped it down a bunch, but just a bit. But yeah, I think we said all the good things we could say about that. But till then, go check that movie out. And go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books, old animations, and all that fun stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.